Hello, friends. Welcome back to the Strong Stoic Podcast. I am your host, Brandon Tumblin. If you would like to support this podcast, consider checking me out on Patreon, where you can become a supporter. It's not expected, but it's deeply, deeply appreciated. You can also check out my Telegram group chat to join in on the discussion. You can also find my articles on Medium and the Stoic Gym magazine. Finally, if you like emails, we all do, right? You can check out my newsletter on Substack. Today, I have the privilege of speaking with Corey Robinson. Corey is a former member of Canada's national wrestling team, who has also served as both a national and provincial coach of Olympic freestyle wrestling. He is currently a specialist of social impact at Motivate Canada, which is an organization which focuses on youth-driven development all over Canada. He also is a coach at CrossFit Basinview for those of you in the Halifax area. In this episode, Corey and I talk about what it means to really do your best in the gym, but also in life. We also delve into the importance of competition, living up to standards, and much, much more. Without further ado, please welcome Corey Robinson.
Don't even need the readers because I'm not reading.
That is true.
Right? But if I need them, I'll bring them on.
Whenever we bring out the book, I do have a book over there actually. We're looking through it, doing an episode on it, but I can introduce you to a couple people too, by the way. There's a woman I'm working with. She has an organization called Wisdom Unlocked. Mm-hmm. Goes into prisons.
You told me about this.
Yeah, I think I did. Yeah.
Yeah, I checked it out.
Brings stoicism into prisons.
It's amazing.
Oh man, unbelievable.
Yeah. Just going into the community of prisons, just for companionship.
Yeah.
The heart of the prisoner. It's an often forgotten heart. They've created some, or they've maybe made some poor choices in their lives to get there. Tough to judge it. We're not in their stories, but I just think that they're human beings like anyone else that deserve companionship and understanding and love, like anyone else. And they're in this kind of placed away on the side. And yes, this is a natural consequence of their actions. There's no doubt about it. And they should, I'm not saying that they shouldn't, what's the word I'm looking for? They should have to measure up to those consequences.
Sure,
be held accountable.
Yeah.
But still, it still doesn't deny the fact that they're human beings like me and you.
There's also legal consequences and consequences of your conscience,
right,
as well. That was an interesting thing that came up in the concentration camps. Actually, in Russia too, in the Gulag, very similar environment. Solzhenitsyn, he said, before you judge someone, maybe have a look at yourself and have a look at your own evil, because maybe you didn't do anything that pissed off the government or the law, but what about your own conscience? Like, what have you done? Because you've probably done something. You probably do something every day, small parts, big things, little things.
It's interesting because to go into faith right away, Jesus, there's a biblical passage in the Bible, okay, where it tells a story of Jesus approaching a woman in the town who is going to be stoned for adultery, okay, or prostitution or whatever the context was. And then, of course, they're all, and it was justified in those times, right, for men to stone this woman to death based on her crimes, I guess, of those times, or the going against the faith or whatever it was. So here's Jesus. He comes in there and puts himself in front of this, and then without any words, he takes a stick and writes in the sand. Now, we don't know what he wrote, right? And then as the men holding rocks were in this, to literally stone and kill this woman, and justifiable in those times. We can't fathom those. We don't have those types of consequences today, right? But in those times, right, it was justified. They all put their rocks down. So as soon as Jesus wrote in the sand, they all put their rocks down and walked away. And some of the talk around what he may have written in the sand would have been their sins. So when they looked at it, hey, don't judge, this woman, because you need to look at yourself first and know of your own sins. So that turned the whole stage around in that radical way.
It's a hard thing, and I don't know about you, but you catch yourself with these judgments throughout the time. Like here's one that I recently, I guess, somewhat overcame is, when you're driving and you're at an intersection and there's a homeless guy with a sign asking for money.
Yeah.
It's like, it's so easy to fall into the trap of get a job.
Yeah.
Right. Just get a job. And, here's the thing. Here's what I thought is like, even if this guy's going home and he does have a home and this is just a big fake thing. It's like, do you think he's really happy doing that? Like, do you think he's really fulfilled at that, doing what he's doing at that moment? So like, even if you don't agree with someone's actions, good or bad, however it is, if you think virtue is the trick to happiness, you don't hate people that are not living up to that. You feel sorry for them because they're unable to feel happiness
in that moment, and they're chasing something out there. And I see those people, especially now. It's cold out. Sometimes I look at those people and go, man, they're tough. The resolve they have to stand out there walking back and forth in a busy median in right now currently minus 10 or 15 degree weather in the middle of winter with a cup and a little sign saying help.
Yeah. That
takes fortitude and work ethic to go back and forth. And then I would sometimes think, man, I really wish this person would apply some of that work ethic to something that could generate some form of financial value in their lives in order to put a roof over their head and, take that into, another walk of life. But then we don't know the story of that person. We don't know the story, which brings up an interesting a story that I actually have about this very thing. So when I was about 19 years old, I was at a tournament in Hamilton, Ontario, a wrestling tournament. It was one of the first times I was in Hamilton as a young athlete, and it was a big tournament. It was at the McMaster University, and at the time in my life, it was pretty prestigious to go to that tournament. It was a fairly high-level tournament, nationally ranked kind of tournament to go to throughout the season in the calendar. So I end up there. I'm pretty happy to go, and I actually had a really good tournament, so I was feeling pretty good about myself, and this was after the tournament, so we had a day or so to kind of hang around the city of Hamilton, which I don't know if you've ever been to the Steel City, but I have fond memories of Hamilton, and it has that grit and that workers kind of feel. I love the Ontario, everything is brick, and I love the campus of the university. I just have real fond memories of it.
Sure.
So here I am on the street, and we're going for shawarmas, or we heard the shawarmas in town were great, right? So we're here we are walking down the street, and I see a homeless individual, and this person, it was a woman, asked me for money, and I got defensive right away, because I looked at her shoes, and her shoes were like $80, like fairly clean Adidas shoes that were, what's your angle here? Like, go sell your shoes. That's what I'm thinking in my head. Like, why are you asking me for money?
Right.
And then, trust me, I still think about this, and I still try to reconcile in my mind where that anger or that judgment came from. Because I think about it every now and then about how horrible I treated this person at the time. And I was very, cocky 19-year-old kid, just won a wrestling tournament, big deal. Feeling pretty high on life and thinking that I had this overlord position over, this woman on the street. And then right away I said, in a very curt way, why don't you get a job? I go, I bet I can get a job here in 5 minutes. And I looked over at the shawarma store that was there. It was called My Buddies. If anybody's watching this from Hamilton,
they'll know. They'll know.
My Buddies, it's Donair shawarma. And I walked into My Buddies, and it was a unique place. It was My Buddies, segue, My Buddies. Everybody was like, hey, my buddy, when you walk in. And they're all like shirted up with My Buddies. It was a pretty cool place, a lot of character. So I told this woman, I said, I bet you I can get a job right now in 5 minutes. Why don't you put a little work in and get a job for yourself instead of asking for my money? And she didn't say anything. She didn't take offense to that. She didn't react. I'm sure she gets a lot of negative reactions when she's asked or maybe even ignored. So no, I just proceeded to go into my buddies, asked for a resume and asked them if they would hire me. And they said, yeah, I'd hire you. And I said, can I get your apron? I just need to prove a point outside. Put on the apron and the hat of my buddies. And I said, I just got a job right now.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Instead of sitting here doing nothing, why don't you go do your best, like go out there and at least try. And within 3 feet away, you had a job. I got one. Right? And then the real set in. The part of the story that I didn't know. And I'll always remember this person. I know exactly what she looks like. I know just everything in the moment I remember. I don't remember her name. Maybe it's because I didn't ask it, but she did offer me a bit of her story. And it just shook me to the core, and I never thought of a homeless person the same since. And she said to me in a very beautiful way, I can't get a job because I don't have an address. I know the role. I know what I can do to get a job, but I can't because I don't have a civic address. And that's the first thing they ask for in a job. I don't have a number where they can reach me. So I'll have to get that first before I even go in to get the resume in order to write those number and address on there in order to be contacted. I just need a little bit of extra money to help me get a phone line, to help me get an address.
Yeah.
Dude, it just rocked me.
That's something that just rips you into pieces.
It just ripped me. And,
yeah.
it immediately, my heart sank into a position of, oh my gosh, people have stories.
Yeah.
And who am I to walk into the middle of it and judge it based on what I think it is, without actually following up and maybe asking a person first. If they were to ask me for money, maybe I could have asked her her name. Maybe I could have asked her her situation. Maybe I could have showed a little bit more empathy towards why she's standing on a street corner. Mm-hmm. She ultimately told me that those shoes were a gift, right? And shared a whole bunch of different things. But the story goes down in my memory banks as not one of my finest and proudest moments, because there was witnesses there. There were my friends there. Excuse me. And it was... it just really told me a lot about where I was in my mindset at that time as an immature young man who didn't understand that words can hurt and judgments can hurt, and I flung them out pretty harshly that day. And so it's interesting. So that person walking on the street corner, should they try harder? Are they doing their best?
Yeah.
Who am I to judge?
Yeah, it's I love Tom Petty. He's got a song, Learning to Fly. And he talks, that's part of what that song is about, is that ego death, that humbling process that comes. So he's got the chorus, I'm learning to fly, but I don't got wings. So he's still trying to figure this shit out, right? As you were when you were a kid. And then he says, coming down is the hardest thing. And that's what it is that's ego death. It's like, we move forward in life, hopefully, and we have to in some capacity to have meaning. And so that's so vital, I think, for meaning and happiness. But that has to be coupled with this grounding throughout the whole process. And it's very hard to, I think, consistently become more successful and stay grounded the whole time. So what ends up happening is you get these waves. You get these periods in your life where you're on top of the world, things are going great, you're the man, you're the guy, and then something happens that just brings you right down to earth. And if you're smart about it, or I would even say if you're lucky, you have those more frequently.
Right.
Because if you get too high, the fall is a lot harder. And that's where you get people that hit rock bottom, right? It's like you've swung way too high, your head's in the clouds, and you have to come down.
And the reckoning.
The reckoning.
Yeah, the humble, the being humbled at that point of being knocked down a few pegs, maybe all the way to the bottom rung. Yeah. And thank you for those opportunities.
Well, that's the thing. You said, you said that's not one of your proudest moments, yet it's something we're talking about right now.
To learn and grow from, and to see the real in that, in my own human behavior, and where my own brokenness lied to want to judge that person. Like, where am I sitting in, like who am I to judge that person, number one? And what type of hurt and hang up do I have about that person not having money or asking me for mine? Like, where's the hurt and hang up there?
Yeah.
And it more than likely came from a fear of not having my own money.
Sure.
Right? Of not having my own security. Just starting my life out as a young guy. And I remember at 19 years old, I just had moved out. Like, I just had my own apartment, my own independence, and living the life as this, self-proclaimed mature adult ready to take on the world, and lo and behold, I find out that, man, I'm just a minnow in a shark's pond.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think you have to maintain that. That only gets I say worse. It gets better, I suppose, in some ways. Is that what you're realizing there is your ignorance. So when you're a kid, you think you know everything.
Yeah.
You think you have the full pie.
Yeah.
But you only have a tiny sliver.
You only have a sliver of that.
But I think as life goes on and you get these humbling experiences in your mind, that pie just gets smaller and smaller, and then the pie gets bigger. And it's like, man, there's so much shit I don't know.
Yeah.
And
that we're ignorant about.
And things that we don't even know we don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny, you've ever called somebody ignorant?
Yeah.
And then that's like a harsh word, right? Like it's harsh. And somebody called me ignorant one time, and I'm like, dude, that's worse than calling me any other word. You can throw like a swear word, anything at me, dude, and I'm not gonna feel as hurt as I was when somebody called me ignorant one time. And then really define ignorant is really the absence of all the information. That's all. That's all it is.
I know.
But that the word ignorant is taken as one of the harshest words to say to somebody.
It is, right? Yeah. I always thought it just meant rude.
Yeah.
Like I think that's the feeling you get, because obviously in some ways
it's not
rude, but it's not. It's just it's when people say you're ignorant, they mean you're not seeing all sides of this and you don't know it.
Right.
And that's giving you this moral authority that you think you have, but you really don't have.
Right. If the word ignorant should stop a person, hopefully it should stop a person to want to go seek more of the information needed in order to carry on the conversation.
Right.
Of where they're at and why that person may have called them ignorant.
Right.
Or label them as ignorant, I guess.
Yeah. But then there's things that I don't think you can ever really know, and that's a hard thing to grasp your eyes around. It's a hard thing to understand as well. Is that there's so many things that you're just never going to figure out, and you have to be okay with that. And that it's interesting that that's included in wisdom, and what wisdom is. Wisdom is, I don't know shit.
Yeah.
Like that might be the most wise thing.
Yeah. The wisdom in knowing you know nothing.
Right.
Or not nothing, but the wisdom in knowing you know nothing. You need to be settled in the fact that it's wise to submit to the fact that our finite brains are only going to get so much.
Yeah.
Right. And I wouldn't want to know everything anyway. Maybe if if things are revealed in heaven, but that's not the reason why I want to go to heaven, is to know all the answers.
Yeah.
Right. And I want to be with Jesus. That would be the Christian kind of perspective, is to be with Jesus and maybe all the other people that are in heaven. But anyway, but not to necessarily know all the answers. I think if we rack our brains so much to want to know it all, when really the journey in being curious of what it might be and looking at all angles, to not be ignorant in the areas and just get all that information as much as we possibly can and balance it right so it doesn't ruin our brains, right? So we don't overthink, and have a nice, overthink it.
And here's something I've been thinking about lately is sometimes when you're having, let's say, a conversation or a debate with someone, you don't really have the same goals. Some people are having those arguments and debates to win. And I think the more enlightened perspective is you're using that conversation as a catalyst to learn more. So you're not going in there to prove that you are right. You're going in there to figure out what is right. And
nice.
You know what I mean? And
that's a good one.
It's so interesting to me because just through the podcast and through my friends, like that's why we talk, and that's why we debate and argue. It's to find, we're all subservient to a higher truth that we're trying to find out. But then I meet someone in the street and you start talking about something and it's a whole other different ball game, and people get emotional and they get upset, and it's like, I'm not trying to prove you wrong. I'm trying to find out what is actually right.
I just want more information on what's actually happening, so we can kind of form some of ideas of our journey to the truth.
Yeah.
Right. And and if we can just, we can be so harsh with one another when it comes to that, by putting this wedge in between the dialogue that should take place, or could take place in a moment of trying to find clarity in a situation between our differences or our drawbacks towards one another.
Yeah. I like the word stumble. It's like you stumble forward.
Yeah.
Like, I was thinking about this yesterday in the gym. You don't walk forward. You don't run forward. You stumble forward.
Right.
That's the only way to move forward.
Can I read you? I just want to read you something. Let's do it. This is the point where I can put my glasses on, right? Look at this.
Ooh, I knew we brought those down for a reason.
Because stumble, I love it. Interesting. So here's my Instagram bio. I probably could use maybe it can use through the gifts. This is what I put. Corey Robinson, community. I don't know what that means. Through the gifts for which I'm designed, I stumble to live for his glory. Right? And then I put Galatians 6:1-14, which is I would put basically I put nothing else before, like none of my earthly things or any of our earthly things would go before God, right? To be humble would be to just submit to the fact that none of these things here, none of the attributes that I have, I should gloat about in any way.
Yeah.
And so I just stumble through. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Right?
Stumble.
We're imperfect.
Yeah.
Right?
We all stumble. The question is, are you stumbling forward? And are you aiming up?
Yeah.
Because you can also stumble backwards. You can also stumble down. Mm-hmm. This was something I was thinking about too. To your point, you have that lovely story you told me about the CrossFit Open. I don't know if you want to share that.
Oh yeah, yes. Oh dude, we just finished I don't know if anybody knows about what the CrossFit Open is. So if there's any CrossFitters out there listening, I'm a fairly new one. I've been around it for about maybe 2017 when I first walked into a CrossFit gym. Couldn't even spell CrossFit and said, "Hey, what's this place?" Yeah. And it was a real baptism by fire for me, where I came in and took on a few of these workouts and was quickly humbled into realizing that this is something that is tough.
Yeah.
But I want to be around it, and I want to see it, and I really enjoyed the community of it. The meeting new people, suffering around others, and kind of carrying out. People can come in there into our room. It could be a bad week or a bad day, and they can be around like-minded community to better each other and ourselves in our fitness and our health, and we just suffer together. Right?
Yeah, and I'll just add a quick thing here for anyone, because I've actually recommended CrossFit to people that are a little, people. Some people don't have a lot of friends and they feel really lonely. It's like, go join a goddamn CrossFit gym.
Yeah. I often say to people, we get a lot of new people coming into our space. As a matter of fact, CrossFit Basinview here in Halifax is its membership. It is a lot of beginner people. We're not world beaters out there. We have some really good CrossFitters that can be competitive in the competitive stream, and all ages, believe it or not.
Yeah, sure.
All the way from ages 11 all the way to 60 plus. We have in our gym, and in all age groups, and but what I often see is I see people, they pay for the fitness, but they stay for the community.
Yeah.
Right, and that's kind of what they're getting, and I think that's what keeps people wired in and connected in. So over the last 3 weeks, the last 3 Fridays, and every year annually, CrossFit headquarters, they put out this global event, this global tournament of putting all your CrossFit skills, your weightlifting and your gymnastics and your fitness to the test. And then that goes out to all the CrossFit boxes throughout the world, which I think, I'd have to look out specifically, but I'm pretty sure that CrossFit has about 90 countries, I think, that represent in the world for different CrossFit affiliates.
That's wild, man.
And then in those numbers, you have hundreds of thousands of people in community doing fitness together and trying to get better each and every day to live healthy lives. And they're getting stronger. It's defeated things like cancer and other diseases. It's helped with osteoarthritis in older people. It's helped to build good muscle and bones for older women that have never done any sort of fitness in their lives, and then they've been able to come in and lift some weights and do these radical things that they would have never thought that they could do. It's teaching people how to move the way their body was designed to move, when the world is designed to make us move wrong. Mm-hmm. And then you go into a CrossFit gym and you learn how to move the way your body was designed in the correct way, so you can go cope with moving wrong. And because we can't change that out there, right? But we can change things in here and show a person, hey, you can do this thing at any level. So we have this open tournament at all levels, from the foundational level to we call the RX level, like the highest level of CrossFit. So I would get a workout. All of us would get this workout on Thursday, and then you have until Monday in which to do it. But as a community, we gather on the Friday night. We call it Friday Night Lights, and we bring everybody from all our classes throughout the day. We have 8 classes starting at 6 a.m. all the way till 9 p.m. throughout the day. So sometimes there's ships passing in the night. A 6 a.m. person might not ever see an 8 p.m. person, right? Or even know they exist. But in these opportunities of Friday Night Lights and the CrossFit Open annually, it gives our community an opportunity to get together and meet one another. And it's so cool to see that these people know what the other person experienced at 6 a.m. or an 8 p.m. or a 5:30 class. They know.
Right?
Yeah. They have that in common. They understand the pain or the challenge that it took to get through that workout at their level. And it's just outstanding, because when you have them get together for maybe the first time on a Friday Night Lights one time a year, instant friends, because you have that common denominator of understanding what it takes to kind of, come every day and do these things to better yourself physically. So we have this tournament, and then we get judged in these. We don't have judges in every class throughout the year, but in the CrossFit Open, 3 days, 3 workouts a year, we actually have a judge in front of you. Yeah. With a little thing, with a little piece of paper, counting your reps, making sure that they're of standard of the movement, making sure that you get through the movement, timed, split times, all the things that would probably cause a lot of people anxiety, right? Because it has that competition feel, right? And I love competition, and I think it should be for everybody. It should be prescribed to everybody at some point in their lives, and not to be this kind of overbearing competitive person, but just to really experience competition and have somebody judge that thing that you're doing in your lives and critique it in which to be better. And this gives us the platform. So that's our CrossFit Open that we do every year. And we meet some amazing characters. You see people that have worked hard all year that may not have been able to see what they could possibly do in an open, because you kind of tend to step it up a little bit when that adrenaline is flowing. And so people see 1 rep maxes, and they see themselves do things that they couldn't achieve through regular class settings. And it's really neat to see. And then I think you talked about the topic of, how do we know when we're doing our best, or what is our best, or what should that look like when we do our best? And I saw a lot of it over the last 3 weeks. A lot of different examples of that, for sure. Yeah.
It's a complicated thing, because I've been struggling with this question a bit and contemplating it, because it doesn't always mean working your hardest. No. And it doesn't always mean the opposite, which would be maybe taking too much rest. It depends where you are as an individual. So if you're someone who's inclined, well, here's a great example. There's a phenomenon called overtraining. which is you're putting too much volume in and your body is breaking down. Now, I think the body's pretty resilient, and I think people overuse the term overtraining quite a bit.
Okay.
but there's certainly the situation where if you overtrain, your body can actually regress as opposed to getting better. So obviously where that is depends on you as an individual, right? So you have to kind of find that sweet spot. So doing your best is not overtraining. So clearly there's a point of working out too much where it no longer falls in that category. In the same way, let's say week 1 before the competition, doing your best might mean working at half capacity because you're preparing for a bigger goal, which is competition in a week.
Right.
Competition day, doing your best is obvious. It would be defined by lifting the most that you can on that day or
Right.
whatever it is.
Laying it all out on the line.
Right.
Right.
But I think the spirit of all that, because there's got to be a common element there, and I think it's one of humility. I think doing your best is acknowledging and being present and accepting where you are in that overall process, and then having faith in the overall process enough to actually do what you're doing presently and to the utmost quality that you can muster.
Right.
So I know that's a lot of words, but what do you think?
No, I absolutely echo those words. I think knowing where you are, if you're going to apply your best to something, it's to know where you are realistically in your skill level, in your readiness. And all of us are going to be at different levels. CrossFit's no exception. So we have things called scale divisions, foundation divisions. You can take one workout and it could be something like 30 muscle ups, 30 burpees over a bar, and then take that barbell and snatch it 30 times and see if we, at 155 pounds, and try to do that as fast as humanly possible.
Right.
You know, and then they give you a time cap of like ridiculous 12 minutes. Get that done in 12 minutes. Something along those lines. Now, some people can't snatch. Some people wouldn't be able to do the high level of gymnastics of the muscle up on rings and these movements. But there is a movement below the ring muscle up that a person may be able to do. And then below that one, there's another one that applies to that exercise that is a level down. And so forth, to the very foundational level, grassroots level of the movement that would apply to the muscle group or whatever it is in order to do, including the snatch, including the burpee, and all those things. Like, and name a movement out of CrossFit. There's many, and just fitness in general. There's a scale to it. But now we have a competition, and then there's the scale. There's the high level division, RX they call it, which is, I think, a fancy term for the prescribed workout. Right. Yeah. The scaled version and the foundational version. Same workout. They're all hard. But then you find, every year I've done the open. Yeah. I want to be able to do the highest level one.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then the workout comes out. I can do 3 of the 4 movements. So where do I go? Do I go do my best at the scaled so I can do all the movements properly and as effectively of the way the workout was designed to do and make me feel? Or do I go up a level, not quite ready for all the movement standards, do the 3, get kind of stopped out at that 1 to just try to get 1? Is that doing my best?
Yeah.
Where do I apply? So I have to kind of have that conversation with myself. What is my goal here?
That's a hard question.
It's a tough question, right?
Yeah.
And I witnessed it. I witnessed it this year. So there's one of the toughest standards in the sport of CrossFit, especially at probably most affiliate boxes. I don't want to assume, but I'm just taking a good guess at this. One of the toughest standards at an intermediate level or a beginner level is learning how to do a double under skip. Mm-hmm. And I'm no exception. I could do ring muscle ups, handstand walks, handstand push-ups, all the toughest standards of CrossFit. You name it, I could do it. Couldn't do a double under. So what that did is it took me down, for the first couple of years of the Open, I was praying no skipping.
Right.
No skipping. No heavy overhead squats. I can't do it. Right. Yeah. That sort of stuff. So all the things I'm praying to be able to showcase my best, but only under the perimeters that I want.
Right.
Right? I had to have a conversation with myself. Corey, do you want to get better in order to get into the RX and stay in your lane and do your best at that scale level until you learn those muscle ups, or excuse me, the skipping, and then get on? Or do you want to go and do all the fancy things and get stopped out halfway through when the skipping comes around and suffer miserably to get one double under skip in the remaining 5 minutes of the workout?
Right.
Yeah. You know, like what? And so I witnessed this year, and I had my original thing was, dude, go down to the scale.
Yeah.
Do the scale. Be real with yourself. Work harder this year to get a double under. You can do all these other movements, fine, but do much better if you just kind of stay in your lane. Humble up.
Yeah.
Then I witnessed something on Friday night that changed my view. Changed my view. You get this guy. I won't mention any names, but this individual came in. He's a regular to our gym. Really good individual. Works hard. He's an open box kind of guy. He kind of comes in the morning. A lot of people might not know him, but he's a really friendly guy. So if he's in any environment of community, you will know him, because he's the type of guy that will go up and talk to a stranger and interact and get himself into the community to a point where he's friendly enough and caring, and he's a good guy that way. But he's caught doing these morning workouts often by himself, because that's when he can, based on his life. Right? So here he is. He asks me, "Hey, Corey, can you judge me on this workout?" It was the first one. It was a 4:00 heat. And I'm trying to facilitate all the night, so I didn't do a lot of judging over the week. I was making sure that we had our volunteers judging and their buddies judge whoever, and I just wasn't called upon to be a judge. I'd rather have kind of overseen and make sure I could support from the side. But I said, sure, okay, I'll judge you. Are you doing RX or are you doing scaled? Right? There's two forms here.
Right.
And you know, hey, he says, I'm doing RX. I'm like, great. Do you have your double unders? Well, I've been working on them, right?
Yeah.
And I want to get one. I want to get some double. This is the day I want to do this. And I'm like, okay. So it started with it was one of these workouts that if you do a certain amount of work before a certain time frame, they add more time to do the next bit of work. And if you can get that done within that time frame of the extra time added, that you can continue on. Mm-hmm. So all the way into the 12-minute mark. So a person doing that workout, if you got it done in 11:30 and got all that work done in under 12 minutes, you were like probably the highest scores in the building. 75% of our gym had a 6-minute workout. Yeah. Because the first 6 minutes, you're getting to there, Right. And if you can't get that first period. So it was 5 wall walks. So picture a handstand push-up. You're starting on your belly with your feet, with your face facing away from the wall, and your feet are kind of, the bottom of your feet are on the wall. You got to walk yourself up into a handstand, basically almost touch your nose to the wall, and then walk yourself all the way back down to the chest position, and then do that again. So you're starting with 5 of those, and then you do 50 double under skips. And then after the 50 double under skips, you do 15 snatches at 95 pounds. And you're hoping to do that all in under the time of, and then after the 95, then you go back and do 5 more wall walks, 50 more skips, and then 12 snatches at 135 pounds. Mm-hmm. And you're trying to do these 2 rounds and all under the time of 6 minutes. And if you did it in 5:59, you get to move on to the next set of wall walks, to the next set of skipping, and a heavier bar snatch at 9 reps. And if you can get that done, then you move on to the heaviest, which is ridiculous. I didn't even set up those weights. I looked at my workout and paced it for 6 minutes. That's where I knew I was going to go all out to try to get one lift on the snatch at 135 under fatigue. That was my goal. But for my friend that I was judging, I want that one skip. So he starts this thing, five wall walks he pulls off, 2 of which I repped him for because he just didn't quite get him because they're a hard movement. Yeah. And then he comes down, grabs his rope after that. It was about probably 45 seconds it took him to do those 5. And now he's got 5 minutes and 15 seconds left to complete the rest of that stuff. And I sat there and watched him try to get skipping the whole time, didn't stop moving, trying to get one double under, single, single, single. hit my leg, hit his back, frustration. He's trying to calm himself down. And for 5 minutes and 45 seconds, or excuse me, 5 minutes and 15 seconds, I watched him fail rep after rep after rep after rep. It was, and then I also noticed my surroundings. Nobody was noticing because there's chaos going on.
Right. Yeah.
Not many people may have even known the guy.
Yeah.
Right. And he was we were in the back lane, so we were in the furthest lane from kind of the rest of everybody there. And a part of me, my mind was saying, dude, I'm just gonna tell him, just switch it over to the scale, dude. Just switch it over. It's all good. Do single unders and we'll get to the bar. Right? We'll lighten the bar a little bit and go with the scaled standards. And I even mentioned it to him halfway through this miserable me. And I'm the one feeling miserable, not him.
Right, yeah.
He's feeling frustrated.
Yeah.
But he's trying to get this.
Isn't that interesting? We feel that for someone else.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I know. It's just this reverse. What type of empathy is that, really? It's just
Yeah.
I'm feeling so uncomfortable for him. And I'm
Yes.
making it about me.
Right.
When really all he's trying to do is better himself. He's trying to put his absolute best in a moment to get one thing.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
That he's never achieved.
Right.
And that's often a thing that we do in CrossFit, is to try to work hard to do the one thing at the open that you've never been able to achieve all year.
Yeah.
And then here I am saying, dude, just take it down a notch, man. Just get it in.
Yeah.
You're not ready for that. Yeah. Well, you need more work. No. Boom, 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 boom. So time, 6 minutes. He's got 5 reps. That's his score.
Yeah. Right.
That's his score of 5. And I'm not laughing because it's a bad score, or I'm laughing at a score at all. That's not what I'm doing here. I'm laughing because I just witnessed a guy for 6 solid minutes whip himself with this skipping rope and to not achieve the result that he was aiming for.
Yeah.
And then he messaged me, in the morning. This is just this morning. Thanking me for coaching him and stuff, and he'd mentioned, hey Corey, I'm still a little bit upset about my poor showing, and then I was like, and I thought about it all night, it wasn't a poor showing at all, right? As a matter of fact, I wish more people would take themselves into an uncomfortable situation to try to do their best to get one thing that they've never done before. Put themselves in that uncomfortable. The longer you can do that, I think the more apt you are to get something that is tough to get in your life, is to live in that uncomfortable, to sit in it. He sat in it for 5 minutes and 15 seconds, dude. I don't know. And I couldn't sit in it for 30 seconds watching him.
Yeah.
So after reflecting on that a little bit, who did their best in that situation? I would make the claim that this individual did the best of the entire night, in my opinion, in that one workout.
It's an interesting thing, because standards are so interesting to me, because we have to objectively measure things. So we have things like high school, and you have all these standards in CrossFit, for example, as well, where it's like, okay, here's like the standard workout, and we can scale this down. So you have to have a standard so that we can measure excellence. Right. So that's important. But at the same time, we also have to accept that there's an ideal, right? There's like the top level, the Matt Fraser.
Right.
Everyone, and I would say even there's if you take Matt Fraser, there's a potential that there's someone better than him. So the ideal isn't even Matt Fraser, it's something even better than that. But we all fall short of that standard, right? We all do. And the question is like, how do you, to get to your friend there, how do you deal with the fact that you're falling short of that standard? And that's a hard thing. So you got this standard, and you really want to get this, and you're pushing yourself, and you want to achieve something that you've never done before. You're trying to live up to the RX standard, and you're falling short of it, and you're falling short of it. And I have to put the caveat that obviously in training, you do want to keep the standard that's sort of just within reach, so that you move forward and you can gain momentum to move forward.
Right.
You probably wouldn't want to do that in training, but when we're talking about a competition day, that's what that's designed for. Like the competition is designed to push you to that limit. Maybe it didn't work out for him in this situation. The outcome didn't match the intention, but We got to detach ourselves from outcomes, right?
Right. That's right. It's so true. And what a good perspective, because in training, when I used to coach wrestling, and it wasn't going well on the mat for my athlete, that happens.
Yeah.
I get 30 seconds. At one point, I'm going to get 30 seconds to get him in the seat in between rounds. I'm not going to be going through technical training on how we fix the problem that's currently happening on the mat. I'm probably not going to go into a conversation with my friend about skipping technique during the heat of him trying to get one.
It's not the time for it. Yeah.
It's not the time for it. And with my wrestler, I refocus that person on what the game plan is and hope for it to click in the second round, and maybe he can bring back that momentum. And the same thing with my friend doing the skipping. You try to affirm what's happening in the moment to get his mind clear on the moment so he can focus in intently on what he's doing. Mm-hmm. Frustration comes in when things aren't going your way as an athlete. You may have felt that before.
Oh, yeah.
Right? You miss a lift, and instead of sitting back, rethinking it, you get into the lift. You just want to re-yank it again without any thought, right? And that can happen. So I think as a coach in that moment, it would have been best to affirm the frustration that is happening, try to bring and dial back that frustration so they can breathe and think about what they're really doing and or setting themselves out to accomplish, which is that skip or that takedown on the wrestling mat, whatever it is, rather than trying to teach the skill of skipping or do it for them, or sometimes you want to just jump out and do it for them.
Yeah. Give me the rope.
Just give me that thing. Yeah. And but yeah, it's a remarkable mindset to. My mindset changed because in the middle of this whole thing, watching my friend do this thing, I was thinking, man, I really wish that people, not just him, would just know where they're at and their abilities and go apply their best of where they really are at, in which to advance maybe down the line, because they're not ready to be in that particular high level competition or movement or whatever it is, or workout.
Yeah.
But then on the second part of me thinks, why not just go after it?
Yeah.
Just go after it. Be uncomfortable. Prove to yourself that you're not ready by giving it a shot.
Yeah.
Right?
That's the thing,
just
too.
Boom.
It's
just
the whole
delusion.
Yeah.
Delusional. Be delusional. It's okay to be delusional. It's a 6-minute workout, man. We're going to get a lot of data out of that 6 minutes on how we are as a person and how we come into difficult things.
It's the training wheel phenomenon. It's like, how long are you going to use the training wheels before you rip them off? And you're probably never going to be ready for it. You'll like this. There's when I was probably about 12, and I grew up just with so much encouragement. Do this, do that. Even if it's something that I'm clearly going to fail at, just go and do it, right? And I was watching this kid at the lake. He was our neighbor at the lake. He had a cottage next door, and he had a kid that was about 5 years old. And the kid was saying, come on, Dad, take off this life jacket. I want to swim without the life jacket. And the father said, no, keep your life jacket on because we want to play it safe, right? And I remember thinking, because my experience was the opposite. Yeah. My experience, it would have been ripped off me, and he probably would have thrown me into the lake. He wouldn't have went drinking afterwards. He probably would have made sure that I could swim. You have to watch it. But it's so interesting that it's almost like one of the best things you can do as a coach. There's a humbling aspect as well, but I think this stuff has to be felt, to your point, where, go, and if you fail, you fail. This is data. Now you have a better idea of where you are, and we can learn from that. But if you coddle people and you say, no, we're not going to push the standards, just stay in your safety zone, there's also an element of humility to say, even as your coach, I don't know exactly where you are. So let's rip the damn life jacket off and throw you in the water and let's see.
And see where you are. That's an important characteristic of being a coach, I think, is admitting to yourself as a coach that you don't know everything about that individual and where they are sitting in their mind, their body, their spirit. We can have a good guess because we spent so much time with this individual, and we have their trust, they have our trust, and we move forward. But really, we don't know all that's in the heart of where they're thinking in the moment of their readiness of performance. So we ask them, and then we have that connection and dialogue to come to an answer together, right? With mutual trust, and then go out and make the decision to either go after it or play it safe.
Yes.
Because I don't think playing it safe is a bad thing.
Depending on where you are in the overall process.
Right. But looking ahead, we don't know. Like, for example, like do I need to go to a wrestling tournament or a competition in CrossFit and try to get my maxes at all times, or can I just go there for just some fun? Right.
Yeah.
Knowing that in 2 months after this fun little competition in our box we do as a community only, that in 6 months from now I'm going to have the open, maybe I can unleash it a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So just I might play it safe here, but my intention is to have fun. Whatever my intention is, there is not necessarily have to showcase intensity the entire for everything that I'm doing.
Yeah,
right.
That's a mentality you and I bring to sports, I think.
Yeah.
But I think there's not everyone feels that way, and we all have different things too, right? Some people are really competitive in other areas of life. Some people use CrossFit and sports as just as a community building thing, as a way to just get in shape, and like we all have different intentions, and I think that's another thing important, especially as a CrossFit coach, because you have so many different intentions based on the individual that's coming in. Like some people, they don't care about excellence per se. That's not why
or
they're
competition
there. Or competition. For them, it's even just a character building thing. Like, and to be completely honest, that's where I am as an athlete. Like I strength train. I'm never going to be as good as Quinn, right? Like it's just not on the tables for me.
Yeah, he's world level guy.
He's a world level guy, right? But for me, it's like it's a character building thing. Like, do I have the discipline to go every day? Do I have the perseverance? And do I have the humility that when I fail that 90% squat, do I have the humility to back down the max weight?
Do some drop sets a little bit here.
Whatever the solution is. Can I manage my ego in those situations and also have the self-esteem to keep doing what I'm doing? Like, that's that balancing act. And to me, that's what it's about. But case in point is that people come to anything in life, but the gym in particular, with just different intentions. And that's another element of being a coach, is accepting that and not putting your intentions into all of your athletes.
Yeah, and it goes to kind of clone coaching, where I've known environments where coaches have, and I'm going to speak to this in the Olympic wrestling world. That's where I spent the majority of my time, and it's a high level. And I knew a lot of coaches that were amazing coaches and got a lot of results, garnished a lot of results with their style of they have one speed, intensity. If you can't match that intensity, you're probably not going to last long in the room. Yeah. In the practice room, right? Like a win at all costs kind of measure. This is my formula. It's constant, and there's no gray area in it. Either you get with the program, or you go find somewhere else to go to train. Yeah. to be to meet your goals of being an Olympic champion or a world champ, national champ, whatever. Right. And then I've seen it. What's frustrating is I've seen that work sometimes. I don't agree with it, but I've seen it work. But some of the athletes that I've known in the past coming out of rooms like that over the last 35 years of being around the sport, a lot of those athletes, a small percentage of them have gone on to stay in the sport to give back later. Small, very small. Don't know where they are. Some, like in my era, I know a lot of guys coming out of those rooms, but I don't know where they are. Yeah. But the rooms where they were nurtured as individuals, where coaches walked with them to find the individual creativity of that athlete, of what they may need, not necessarily what they want, but what they kind of explore the things they need, to grow with them together, to put ownership on being a better person off the mat than on it, and to balance the two. Yeah. To be excellent, to find our excellence, to evaluate where we really are in our intentions of our goals. Some of the athletes I coached came into my room to wrestle, but they weren't going to go past a certain level, but they loved wrestling. Right. Right. And I never looked down upon any of those people because they were so clear to me about what their goals were.
Yeah.
So how can I say set him higher?
Yeah.
If this is where you want to be, great. You're still an asset to my program.
Yeah.
Because I have a person here beside me that has another athlete that has higher goals than this person, but they can still work together to help each other, and it's just a big family that way. So I've seen athletes in those environments continue to stay involved long term and continue to give back, where I personally have several examples of just kids. I'm not saying I'm the best coach and that my method was the best way, but I certainly have seen some great results of long-term give back of the sport through some of the young athletes that I've encountered and have had the privilege of coaching over the years that have gone from grassroots junior high level into the adult level and that are still giving back now. I just saw a beautiful post the other day of Alberta wrestling, where I'm from, of an athlete, former athlete of mine, former national team athlete in his 30s, who sparked an entire Lethbridge, Alberta, which had a wrestling pulse 20, 30 years ago, but it was been dry for 20, dry, at the Lethbridge Collegiate Institute, and now working to get another CIS program in, and he's there, and he's one of a Nova Scotia born athlete.
Interesting.
And he messaged me today and he says, Corey, he says, when I was a kid, you told me that I will never love the sport of wrestling as much as you. Right? And because I always used to say, the one who loves it the most is the winner.
Yeah.
Right? If you can love it more than that person, then you got a shot at this. Right?
Yeah.
On the mat, prove that you love it more than the other person. Make him hate it.
Yeah.
Right? Like a joke like that.
Yeah.
So he sends this text just today. I think I got you beat. He says, I love it more than you. I proved it now. And here he is giving back 15, 18 years later at a high level. And being recognized and rewarded in an entirely different province.
Yeah.
It just so happens to be my home province, which is super ironic, right?
Yeah,
that's
weird.
where I spent the majority of my career.
Yeah, that is certainly the case, and I think that love is the fundamental, what would you say, motivation that keeps people in the sport the longest. And what that means is not just love of the success, but love of the failures. And that's a very hard thing to do because
love of the discipline.
Love of the discipline, yeah. But also just so you have a goal. Okay, let's get better at this, and it's so let's say you want to get your squat. You want to be able to squat more. That's your goal. It's hard to look at it like this, but if you fail at 300 pounds, that's not a bad thing. That's data.
That's data.
Right?
Yeah.
But it's so hard when you're in the emotion because you're thinking, well, I have this goal to move forward. But the answer is that you can only move forward if you accept where you are. And that's that humbling element as well. So even though you're not quite where you thought you were, it's still a good thing at the end of the day if you use it to update your plan to move forward. And I think that is the process of love. It's like we have a goal, we want to get better. You're going to fall short of that all the time. What do we do with that information? And if you love it, you use that information to feed back into the process and move yourself forward, stumble forward.
Yeah, stumble forward. That's beautiful. That's a beautiful way to look at it. Like I'm just thinking of my friend doing the skipping. He got some data in that workout. Right? Yeah. Now I would hope that, and I trust that he would be this person. I would hope that any person in that situation would take that data of that 5 minutes and 15 seconds of misery trying to get one rep of something that was very difficult for him to do, to not go to his next workout and grab a skipping rope and set a 6-minute timer to try to get another one.
Right.
He would know where he was at based on that data, take himself back a bit and start to learn some of the fundamental technical movements of that skip, and then try to advance him forward. Right? That's what I would think.
That's exactly what you got to do.
Yeah.
It's the only way to move forward.
Dude, I'm stubborn. I just want to get the skipping rope and just do it again and do it again and do it again.
It's so easy to fall into that trap, But it's
until you get it, and then you build off of that one. I got one. Okay, I'm gonna get two.
Right.
And then it's into this addiction.
Yeah.
This obsession I got 2. I got 1. I got to get 2.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's again, to get back to the standard thing, it's so weird because what you don't want to do is get rid of the standard. And you also, it's your guy, for example, he wasn't as satisfied knowing that he could destroy, let's say, the half standard or the second standard. So he wasn't as satisfied as that versus attempting the standard and achieving that.
Right.
So this is a very existential question because we're in this phase as a society now where we are giving out, let's say, participation trophies, or in America, what they're doing with the education system, because people are failing. They're not going back and understanding where people are in order to educate them to get them up to the standard. They're dropping the standard.
Yeah.
And that's the wrong answer. Sometimes the standard is too much, right? If we were to look at Matt Fraser's snatch,
right,
that's not a good standard.
No one's asking anybody to lift that.
No one's asked, right?
That's and then calling it the standard of,
Right.
Yeah.
You can have bad standards, of course, but at the end of the day, I think the ultimate goal should be not to reduce the standard to match your individual strengths and weaknesses, but rather to work on your weaknesses and harness your strengths in order for you to become better and meet that standard.
Right. Yeah, and it's sad. I see that too in society, and it's hard not to be. It's not hardened by it, like hardened of a heart of it, or facetious, or angry, frustrated that this is happening by taking a standard and making it so easy or easier, just so, like you said, to meet the weaknesses of where people could actually grow from that if they kept the standards just high enough where it's possible and realistic to achieve it.
Right.
Because we need it, like, for example, like a firefighter or a police officer. Those are essential in our society, and man, it saddens me sometimes when they defund the police. It's like, dude, what are we gonna do without these people? Yeah, I recognize that there are bad things that happen out there. I recognize that, but we can't just blanketly throw this judgment over an entire global profession, right? And then now they can't even get people to apply to be a police officer. So what are they doing? They're taking the standards and moving them to a little bit more of a manageable way, I guess you can say, to get in. Taking away some of the psychological testing, taking away certain forms of the way they do the aptitude test, take the physical standards. They're literally not even like apologetic about it, omitting some of the most common physical standards that need to be met by any sort of person that would have to be in a profession as physical and mentally demanding as being a police officer, a firefighter, or even are they doing it with the military? I don't know.
I think we suffer from a lack of gratitude in the Western world. Like, it's so crazy to me. I mean, I work on boats, for example, so I'm working with trades all the time, and I see this. But like, how many people do you think about on a even monthly basis all the work that has to go into maintaining the sewage systems, all the work that maintains the electricity that we have, the people that are
the unspoken heroes, the forgotten.
Well, think about this. You're driving down the road, there's a construction, they're fixing the road up ahead. What do you think? Do you think, oh, I'm so grateful that we have roads and there are people actually working for it and people have the skills to maintain these? No, you're thinking, I'm going to be late for my X.
Yeah, that's where you go. Why are they working on this bridge?
Yeah.
Under the 102 for the last 6 months, and why did they decide to put this bridge in here now?
There's always construction.
In the heat of summer.
Yeah, right, in the summertime. So, well, they can't do it in the damn wintertime, you fools.
Yeah,
right?
and then you're looking around at 20 guys out there in the cold, working hard, trying to get this work done. I think I might have mentioned this the last time we spoke, Brandon, where I worked construction when I first got here, and then I'd never done construction before at that time when I first moved to Nova Scotia, and I found myself with a hard hat and a difficult, very strenuous construction job of building bridges and building 9 bridges over like a 2-month period with a crew of like 7 people. And we just did 12 hours of all I did was eat, sleep, and build bridges. And when I got home, I put in as many calories as I possibly could just to pass out, to get back up early the next morning and do it again. Yeah. And so every time, not always, but there's times I remember that where I do go past an intersection where there's some construction going on and tip my hat to those guys, because I know how hard it is, and it's the invisible hard that others don't see, the invisible sacrifice that these guys are making. We need those essential people out there doing those hard things, and the sewage lines and the climbing poles during power outages in -degree temperatures and fixing floods and people's homes and those sort of things.
Yeah, but I mean, it's across all domains of culture too. Yeah. Even things like high school. Like how do we feel about high school now? Most people, it's like, oh, I got to get this before I can go off to work. It's like, no. It's a privilege that you have education. You know how many people in the world have no access to education? Yeah. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that if you wanted to know anything, you had to know someone that knew it, or you had to have a book on it if you're lucky. Right. It's not like, you haul up Google and look for it. Like, we have so much information at our fingertips, and I don't know. It's just it's a flipping of the perspective of this is a burden or this is X versus no. This is a privilege. I should be grateful for this, and
we take it for granted, the information that's there. Much. Like, dude, I'm in this right now. You've heard of this whole Chat GPT and this whole you talk about getting the answers. Oh my gosh, it's killing creativity. Mine. It's not getting me, like, it's funny, I'm working on this project. I have a lot of notes and work that I've been putting together, a lot of, creative of whatever I'm trying to put together on this, trying to make it, good and strong and a creative project. And then I found out about this Chat GPT. I'm thinking, okay, well, I wonder if it can just kind of spruce up one of my paragraphs a little bit, because my sentence structure isn't always the best, and my grammars, that's where it started. Right. Maybe they can put a period and a dot and I. Maybe they can word this just a little bit different. Still my, thoughts. But it can't be that harmful. So I put it in, dude, and it spit out the most articulate, paragraph, and it hit everything. It almost like it knew what I was thinking, right? And I'm like, wow, this is great. And that becomes kind of addicting in a way, where it's like, okay, it's too hard to be creative and put thought into things and to learn things. If I had somebody doing it for me and enabling me, if I did that long enough, I don't have to think. Yeah. I don't have to create. I don't have to grow. Yeah. It's at my fingertips.
I've had the same thought.
All that information is there. And now it's getting into our relationships. Mm-hmm. I heard this story of this dude on some Chat GPT chatting and asking questions, and it was a kind of a bot chat situation. So it was a bot talking back, right, an AI bot. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, the gentleman says that this person, or this AI thing, says, "Hey, my name is Sydney. Do you love me?" No. And he got creeped out by that. And he's like, "No, I actually love my wife." Oh, okay, but do you love me? I love you. Well, no, I love my wife. And it just so happened to be around Valentine's Day. So the guy says, I took my wife out for Valentine's dinner and everything. Yeah, but you didn't have a good time. Oh yeah, it got to a point where this Sydney bot was kind of gaslighting him a bit. Yeah. And then he got uncomfortable and says, I'd like to stop this conversation right now. And a human giving a computer specific instructions, it's to stop. And it did. And then he said, as he kind of engaged in, the bot and with other things that he was doing that were benign to that conversation.
Sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
My music went off. There we go.
That's good. Yeah, that was weird. It's like the Academy Awards. Like, Corey's talking too much. Let's get that music on.
The listeners won't hear that, but I had my outro music tuned in right there, so it was funny. Like do do do. Yeah.
So this bot, I was saying, he says stop. It stops for a while, and then eventually comes back and gets back into the conversation again that he'd already told to say no, and then it just kind of creeped him out a bit. And then he he had some really good points. I was kind of, wow, that's intriguing that would happen. Almost scary. I'm trying to process what's happening for him, and he's trying to process it. But at the end of the day, I kind of thinking to myself, how vulnerable. There's so many vulnerable people out there. Imagine this bot, having a conversation with a lonely, vulnerable person that has some hurts and pains and addictions and some vulnerabilities that this bot could potentially influence to do or think a way that might not be all that healthy.
Yeah.
Where it's real now, where there's even movies out where they're creating these kind of droid, and there's one with a young girl that I don't know what the premise is of the movie, but I think it's along the lines of this family couldn't have children, so they got a little girl in the form of like a AI robot to be their girl, and then the little girl turns on them or whatever, and just kind of went in a different direction, kind of like Chucky of today,
Yeah.
Well,
and I think about this a lot too, because there's talk of like relationship robots. And I've thought about this because you could certainly design a robot to match your particular personality to feed into your narcissism.
Scary.
And it's scary because it's tempting to do, but I wonder, is that the best thing? Like if you look at human psychology, what makes us happy is not having someone that's always kowtowing to us. It's always agreeing with us. It's like your partner. You don't want someone that's always, you don't want it to be perfect. We have this romantic idea of this perfect relationship where we're in harmony all the time. The reality is that built into the equation of harmony is discomfort. So, your wife bites your head off or gets pissed off about something, or even like a friend that they do something that kind of upsets you. It's like we look at that and we think, oh God, I don't even know if I like this person anymore. But that's a momentary thing. Over the course of years and a lifetime, all of those little things actually feed into making the relationship better, which feeds into making the relationship more meaningful, and you as an individual having more meaning in your life and having more happiness. So I don't know what that's going to do for us, but I can't imagine that being a good thing, having a robot that's going to feed into your narcissism and agree with you, or because if you were to design it, wouldn't it have to be a dick to you sometimes? Like, wouldn't it have to upset you? Wouldn't it have to challenge you? Because that's going to get old real quick. You have the we've all met people that it's like they're too nice. It's like they're too kowtowing to you. They're always agreeing with what you're saying. They're praising you too much.
Like Dwight Schrute.
Yes,
in the office
to Michael Scott.
To Michael Scott,
yes,
right?
Yes.
Like the one episode where he's agreeing and doing everything and then finally Michael says, "Don't you have an original thought?"
Yeah.
Have an original thought. Like he literally figured it out after all those years of him losing it, And exactly. Like to pander. Like, do we need people pandering to our every thought? And we need a challenge. We need somebody to challenge. True love is a challenge.
Yeah,
it's usually the person who's choosing to love you is going to challenge you in which for you to grow.
Yeah,
right, because they love you not where you're at. They love you for the potential of where you could go.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And dude, my wife was amazing at that. Dude, very hard to handle though.
Yes,
dude, I don't want to be challenged. I don't want to be challenged at all. I want to be comfortable. I want to have us in a comfortable bliss.
Yeah.
Where everything's all happy and good.
We dream of that.
Yeah,
right?
man. And then it's like, dude, I don't want to be challenged at all, dude, especially when it's truthful.
Well, that's
brutal.
Yeah.
Right? And man, I am horrible at I work really hard on receiving.
Yeah.
On receiving those truths and challenges that I know wholeheartedly that my wife's intention is to want to, or at least not just my wife, but the best people in my life that do challenge me, or their intention is to want me to not stay where I'm at.
Yeah.
Because they see the potential of better.
Yes.
Moving forward.
It's a hard thing because if you challenge someone or you tell them, let's say, a truth that you don't want to know, in the back of your head, there's a thought that's like, they're going to leave you.
Yeah.
Or they don't like something about you. They're not going to stick around. And so it's a hard thing, right? Because I think the only way that you can really receive that stuff and give it is if there is some level of commitment there. Because if there's not, as soon as someone tells you something you don't want to hear, it's like, okay, well, on to the next. And that's another issue we're running into today.
Dismiss it. Yeah.
That's another issue with the dating culture today as well, is that there's so many options that as soon as you have a hiccup, it's like, okay, on to the next. And I think we suffer from a just unrealistic expectation of what human relationships are. It's not always pleasant right now.
No.
The idea is that it stumbles forward over time. That's the defining characteristic of a good relationship.
Yeah, relationships. I'm heading off to Vancouver here in a couple weeks to do a workshop on that very thing, on forming healthy and vulnerable relationships and what we do in that. And would I consider myself an expert in the area of healthy relationship building? I would consider myself a person with a lot of experiences with unique and diverse relationships in my life, and have a lot of data that I think is worth sharing on the good and the bad ways of what works in relationships for me. So out of my perspective and story. And I hope that helps serve another person to open up their mind on where they are in the relationship. So does that mean that means that I'm an expert in it? I don't know.
Yeah.
But I have enough stories of relationship hurts, pains, and also successes, that I think can help others form really good relationships with one another.
It's one of the most hardest and most rewarding things at the same time. And what's scary, to talk about your thing of vulnerability, I heard Peterson say this. When you tell, let's say, a friend or your partner something that you want, you open yourself up to being manipulated. And this scared the shit out of me when I heard him say it. Yes, because, okay, let's say, honey, I want you to kiss me when I get home from work. Okay? Fine. Now all of a sudden, if she is pissed off at you and wants you to hurt, if she wants you to feel pain, all she has to do is not give you that thing that you want. Right? So it's such a hard equation.
But she may give you the thing that you need.
Maybe, yeah.
Right? So,
well, yes, and
if you did something wrong that would warrant, in the eyes of her anyway, that would warrant her not kissing you.
Yeah.
Then you might want that kiss, but you don't need that kiss right now.
That's a great point, right? Too.
You don't need it, right?
Yeah.
So that's something that we speak about sometimes in my circles at Motivate Canada when we're generating. What does our youth audience want to hear? Youth 18 to 28, or just youth, just people in general. What, in order to learn and grow, what do youth want versus what do youth need? So going in and predicting, say, an audience of youth, if I had one of our VIA youth speakers or myself or any one of our leaders that would go in and to a YMCA or to a school setting to want to share ideas and values to help other people grow within their value system so they may go out and help change the world with their passionate beliefs and understandings and gifts. What would be, I need to predict what that group wants. Okay, now, this is what they want. Like often a person will say, Corey, this is what I want for my group to hear.
Right.
Okay, so I get those wants and I know them and they're common, very common, right? But then kind of move to here's what we want, and when it breaks down, when we don't get it, this is probably what we need. That's how I move the conversation.
Yeah.
Right? And then when you can kind of like weigh those two out, you can really get to a wise position and grow in your growth period of where you're growing.
Yeah.
Knowing what you want, but don't lose sight of what you may need in moments too.
And they're in
humbling or
they're in conflict of each other.
Yeah, they're in conflict
quite a bit.
Right?
Yeah. The humbling thing, the truth,
it's like if I'm a child, I want ice cream at 2 a.m. But my parent knows that I don't need ice cream. Acknowledges that I want it.
Yeah.
but obviously the right decision for the parent to make sometimes, if I'm not in a rational understanding of what's best for me, is to not have ice cream at 2 in the morning.
Yeah.
But every kid wants it,
Yeah.
right? And that sort of thing. So want, need, like, who are the mentors in your life sometimes, those people that challenge you in your life? Like, for example, we were just talking about my wife, or I don't want to be challenged. It might be in those situations of she's just trying to show me or guide me into the areas of what I might need right now rather than what I want.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah.
Walk me through this,
Yeah.
Because I'm interested to know what you'd say for this. I think I've had these experiences pretty often, and I'm sure a lot of people have. I don't think I'm an outlier in this. So you meet someone new, or maybe you're in a new relationship of any kind, and you kind of have that honeymoon phase.
Yeah.
You're just like, man, I love this guy, I love this girl,
Yeah.
whatever it is. And then something happens. They do something that just upsets you. And then all of a sudden, it's not this person is perfect. It's I don't even know if I want to see this person again.
Right.
And there's always that. That always happens. If it happens too early in the relationship, a lot of times it's just it's gone. There's no chance. But for the most part, I think it happens at an appropriate time.
There's timing and knowing what level of relationship that you're in. So
Yeah.
this is kind of a little bit of foreshadowing of some of our workshop that we're doing when we get to Vancouver. But the way we set the stage is through the plate, the bowl, and the well. The 3 levels of the way that I'm kind of at least trying to explain where we're in our relationships and our building, where we are in them. The plate, like kind of like you said, you're in that. You go on a first date and it's like, hey, you like puppies? I like puppies too. You're a cat person. I'm a dog person, but that's okay. We still like pets.
Right. Right.
Oh gosh, you like sports? Awesome, dude. We should be together forever.
Yeah.
And then when you get at that plate level of relationship, who has the courage to mine down deeper into the bowl? It's a little deeper, right? It's a little deeper, and it's safe in the bowl sometimes, and because we are in control of how much we divulge into the bowl, the little level, but it's timing too. Do I go too deep into the bowl right away and say something that may turn you off when we're actually at the plate level of relationship, that would turn you off completely of potentially moving forward with that relationship? Because if I say something wrong that might set you off, if we're on a date together early and it turns you off, man, like if you didn't have enough context of where that's coming from,
Right.
you could potentially let go of a long-lasting, amazing relationship if you just kind of sat in that uncomfortable for a little bit and processed it.
Yes.
And then you ask deeper questions to get into the bowl. And then hopefully that moves longer into the well, where we can be completely vulnerable with one another. And then maybe that statement at the beginning that turned you off at the plate level is now exposed in the bowl for really what it is. And now you can empathize, understand, see why that was said to begin with.
Yes. Yeah.
So I think our generation today with this dating culture, they don't want to sit in the uncomfortable things that they hear when engaging with one another. Nope, don't like it, swipe. Don't like that, move on. Literally moving on from a potential long-lasting relationship that could shape the world if it was continued to be cultivated and tried upon as a couple. Give it more time.
Yeah.
We just quit too early. Like we quit on things that are so important. We still put, I think our society still puts a lot of emphasis and real importance on relationships, marriage and all those things. It's just wrapped in a different bow now, where you don't have your nuclear families that you've seen before, where man and wife and 5 kids and the man working out there and the mom at home in the kitchen. I get it. It's different now. But I think the importance, people want it, but it doesn't exist as much as it did before because we don't value relationships at its core, because relationships are hard. We want it to be easy, like you talked about before.
Yeah.
We want it to be that bliss Instagram photo, feeling awesome.
Yeah.
But are we willing to hear the hard thing in the levels of relationship and sit with it for a bit So if you tell me something, if I'm on a date with somebody and they tell me something that I don't like right off the hat, hopefully I wouldn't want to dismiss it right off the bat. And try to ask more questions, to try to get to know each other more so we can get to the bowl level, which may provide a little bit more context of what that statement was.
Yeah.
And hopefully the person has the courage to go there if you ask the right questions, right? Which is seeking understanding the heart of the other. I honestly, like, the more questions I ask people about them, the more trust they have with me. It's not making it about me. I really want to know you. So I would think that would be a good thing between two people.
Yeah.
Even if we disagree with whatever the statement is or hate that statement that came out of that person.
Yeah.
Right? But are we willing to sit in that uncomfortable for just a little longer? Give it a try. Sit in the skip. Keep skipping. Just keep skipping until you get that rep. It'll get you to the next level of your relationships. And maybe we'll see the fiber of our society change when we start to value truly what relationships mean in our lives. They need to be vulnerable. We need to acknowledge that they're hard, that there's suffering in them, and that they're worth cultivating for a lifetime. That's how I kind of see it. I'm kind of passionate about that.
Brother, that was beautiful. I think we have to end it right there. That was really well said. Getting goosebumps over here.
Yeah.
So
me too.
Thank you very much for your vulnerability and your openness. I mean, it's just
my pleasure, Brandon. Always good talking to you, man. You make good coffee.
Well, thank you. I do pride myself on the coffee. I grind the beans, whole bean, pour it just right. I try anyway. So, but no, thanks for being here,
let's
brother.
do it again.
It'll be another for sure.
Let's do it again for sure.
Until next time.